Okay, I guess we're live.
We're live.
I need to go to the Facebook group. Oh, that was the thing that it did different. It I had never seen this before, and it was showing up on my Facebook ahead of time saying that we were
Mm-hmm.
going live. And that I think that was new.
Oh.
And then it was also like to give them permission, or I just never been on there and seen it. So today is what is today, April the 17th. And so we have another big week of energy. I know we seem to say that and but it's true. It's like this is the biggie. We've got a eclipse in Aries, which is it's it's at the time that it is, it's going to be in Aries, but then it's going to be like moving at the really end of it into Taurus the next day. Like the energies are going to be moving into Taurus, and we have a Mercury retrograde on top of it. So eclipses are always times of new beginnings. You know, it's a new moon, it's a solar eclipse. It's not visible in the United States, or it's like visible in Malaysia or somewhere like that. It's where it's going to, and maybe in parts of Australia. So if we have any Aussies on here, you can let us know if it's visible for you all. I'm thinking there's part of it is, because this is called a hybrid one. It's like part of it's total and part of it isn't. It's like depends on what country you're in. So that's a rare one in that, in the energy of that. So the other weird dichotomy of the energy is, Aries is new beginnings, go, go, go. Sometimes Aries moves without thinking first, it just goes. And it's in Taurus. So the Taurus part is no, I'm going to sit here for a while. I'm not moving until, I have an answer to something, because I'm going to be real practical about this and I'm not going to make a move. And so we've got that Mercury moving. Well, Mercury's already in Taurus. So we've got a combination of all of that energy. So you may have this big like push to move, but then the resistance. And so, look at your resistance and what that is. I was telling well, figure that I've had a migraine, and I know that it's these energies because I have a Taurus moon and we're both Scorpio rising. And so these eclipses, the nodes are getting ready to change. They change every,
Yeah, I have a Chiron in Taurus as well. It likes to.
yeah. So there's a lot, and then there's a whole big bunch of other energies there. So the houses in your astrology chart that it's going to be on, and I've got my thing all wrote up and ready to go. So I'm gonna do a thing on my astrology channel so you all can go there and look at your houses, but it's not up yet. So pay attention and you'll get the notices when it goes up after I do this. The houses that it's going to affect is wherever your Aries, the house that your Aries is in, and the house that your Taurus is in, are your houses that are going to be affected the most. And so each house has a theme. So you can look at your own chart, see where your Aries, where your Taurus is, and then there's all kinds of information. You can just Google, what is the theme of this house, and then you'll know what theme that is in your life. Okay, so that's one way. One of your survival tips and codes. Then you'll know what the changes are. And so eclipses, yeah, they're on that day, but the energy effect, is setting a whole, like, what do you call that? Like a whole quantum field, like a whole, it's, for you. And like, especially for the next 6 months, and even for the next year and a half, when you're in that energy of that. So
Yeah, when
that
it comes back around again.
yeah, till it comes back around again, and then it changes. And so that's the thing with these, because okay, eclipses for the last year and a half have been in Scorpio and Taurus. Okay. And so they're going to be moving from Aries and to Aries and Libra. Okay. That's the houses that are going to be affected. So that's another thing with this one. This is the starting of the Aries Libra, And then the one we have in 2 weeks goes back to Taurus and Scorpio. And so this energy, this newness that's setting in now, like setting your attentions for the next 6 months till the October one comes back around, when we have the other side of this eclipse, like there's always partners in the eclipse, you may really see the energy then. Like if you don't see it now, what you may feel now is your resistance. And then
Yeah.
you have that time period to be working through the resistances, and then you're going to be reaping the harvest of it when it comes back around in 6 months in the October one. Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
why we gotta be like real chill when things get disrupted.
what, breathe,
I
y'all.
mean,
It's like breathe, y'all, breathe.
maybe not chill. I mean, disruption's going to be a little antagonistic by nature, um, but like just recognize it as the beginning. So like this disruption is really just the beginning of the new eclipse cycle, right? And so, like, when we know that these things are just part of nature, every 6 months, every year and a half, we're going to have an effect. Every 6 months, we're going to have to deal with eclipse. Then we are less likely to freak out when it shows up, right?
Yeah,
And
the last
then
time we had these eclipses in Aries was 2005 and 2006. So you can reflect on that energy too, and look at, if anybody can remember from yesterday to today, it's like not one of those
got
things I do very well.
married.
But that whatever energy changes that you may have had in your life then, it's like it could be the same flavor again now, or finishing up whatever that was in 2005 and 2006. It's like, what insight do you have with that, and where are you at with whatever that theme was now?
That's a good question. That is a good question. Yeah, because the new moon, let's see. That's a
Carrie
good
said that she
question.
felt like crap all weekend. Part of it also was we had like intense solar flowers again. So the Schumann resonance on Earth was spiking out the top between that and just, different changes. So when we're sensitive, we feel that stuff. And it's like, that's, people can call it ascension symptoms or whatever you want to call it, but it's energy shifts in your body, and in the body. My body said detox, because that's exactly, it's like, if you don't sit down and detox, I'm going to do it for you. Go to bed. You have a migraine, you're in bed, and it's like, when you don't even do fluids or anything because you just can't even think about it. So sometimes the body goes, and these energies where they're affecting me at is also that we just had that the Jupiter Gazemi on the 11th too. And
Yeah.
it is my like work and health and stuff like that. So it's saying, get your shit together. We're time to upgrade you. So that's what they are.
Right. Well,
They're
and
upgrades.
that they are,
They're upgrades.
and as sensitives, you probably are getting hints like from spirit, from ancestors, whatever, that what you need to do in order to meet the time or the demands of the energy too. So like for me, I've been getting a lot of hints around my food, like what I need to back off of and what
Uh-huh.
actually is okay for me to like do a little bit more. Like right now, I need a little bit more carbs, a little bit more sugar, which I haven't had really any sugar at all in the last year. And so it's like how much is going to imbalance me? How much do I just need, right? But like feeling into it, using my intuition to feel into it, is what is allowing me to like at least have enough energy to dot dot dot, right? Like, and so and again, I feel like that's just because I was kind of given that information to move forward. Otherwise, I would just probably be zoning out in bed, which is good too. Like,
Yeah.
if it's your time to rest, it's definitely up.
Yeah. I know. I mean, I love coffee. I love the smell of it, but I don't do well on coffee. As long as I stay on it, I'm okay. But as soon as I'm not on it, like if I miss one day of drinking coffee, then I get a migraine, and I know that. And so while I was on vacation, I was drinking coffee, and and uh,
Yeah.
and I had been even before I left, and I was like, I don't want to stop because if I stop, I'll get a migraine. And see, I didn't. My body, I was already hearing the voice inside of me. So you hear those whispers already. It was already telling me you need to get off this shit. And then when I don't do it, it takes me off of it. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, and sometimes I might have to do a microdose of coffee like in order to get past the headaches. It's like you have to, like, I might need to I wonder if there's a coffee homeopathy. I need to find that out. I can make my own. I'll just do a vibration for it. Maybe that would help me get through it.
Well, I'm do a commercial for WildFit. Like they take you off coffee after they
That's the
kind of
mushroom. Is that the
fill you
mushroom?
up. No, the one I'm drinking. And that's what I mean, I used to be a Starbucks head. I still love the company, but I don't drink coffee anymore.
Right.
So this is a really old cup that I reuse for my mushroom, my shaga stuff. So, but no, what was I saying? I don't remember.
You said it was a commercial for somebody, and I don't know who you said.
Oh, go outfit, because when I did that, that's one of the reasons I haven't drinking coffee for a year, and I mean, which is not to say never, just very very rarely, and they basically ton of fruit, ton of vegetables, ton of water, right, and like you really don't feel it at all. You don't feel like when you go off of the coffee, you don't feel it at all. It's like you just have to replace it with a ton of like energy, essentially, like fruit sugars and nutrition. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
what's the? I looked at human design and on the Gene Keys gates, but I don't remember what gates are active this week. Have you looked at
7
those?
and 20. Sorry, I keep switching them with this other thing I'm doing. Gate
21
3
still?
and 27.
27. Okay.
Yeah. So those are for, what is it, chaos, innovation, and what's it, city. And then also, I'm sorry, my notes have left me, so I have to bring them back up. Do, 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 do,
I
do,
know
do,
I looked
do.
at them yesterday. I mean, I can't retain anything, you all, right now. I couldn't. It's been 2 weeks since I've been on this.
Normally, I would remember.
I couldn't remember how to start
Yeah,
the yard. I was
the
like, there is
city was.
no wiring in my brain today, is how I feel.
I feel
So
like I have
whatever
to
I'm
pull
telling you all,
everything
it's like
in.
straight channeling. It's like, okay, somewhere it's like coming through.
We're going to
So
talk about last week, because that was a weird week, and I'm going to get your input on that. But
yeah, and if
yeah, the
anybody
gate
has any
3, the
questions,
city is innocence.
okay.
And then the gate 27 is selfishness, altruism, selflessness. So yeah, it's a doozy. So like, it starts tomorrow. The gate 3, it starts tomorrow. And shadow of chaos, which is essentially, which I really love the way Mr. Druid talks about it, because he's basically saying that chaos became the fear replacement for primordial space, which is just, a way of stating things before they've been materialized. And then we put fear onto it by saying chaos, like unformedness is bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so
In
that
three, the
that
one
feeling.
that's like hard to start beginnings or something about difficult beginnings or something like that. Do I remember that
Yeah,
correctly?
absolutely correctly. It's difficulty at the beginning is the original I Ching, and it's and that's something that he talks about as well, is that if we expect right, that sometimes it takes a little bit to settle into something. If we expect that it takes a little bit more energy, it feels a little uncomfortable in the beginning because it is the beginning, then we are less likely to freak out, which is a little bit of what we were just talking about, right?
Right.
And
So that's
So it's that
interesting with
energy.
this energy of these eclipses of that the Aries ready to go and then the Taurus pulling it back at the same time. And
And I'm
that
just like,
that energy's there with that gate too. And that's something too you said that maybe we can explain real fast is the I Ching is where the origination, if you want to call it that, of what the gates are in the human design in gene keys. It's like because
yeah,
that's the systems are it's astrology and that and the Kabbalah, I don't really understand, even though I have studied this forever, I don't really understand how they all connect and work together.
yeah. It's
But
like the
that,
chakra systems of
yeah,
the Hindu chakra systems, the Kabbalah, and um, and the I Ching. So, and then they're put together. There's different things like the Kabbalah is so basically the systems of energy and how they move through the pathways and why the connections matter
right.
essentially. The chakra system is having energy centers, right? So energy centers
But it's a
being for a
non-center system
purpose.
instead of the seven, which, a long time ago, Spirit told me the seven system was obsolete. I mean, they've been telling me that I'm in an energy worker since '96, and I knew the seven system was obsolete because Spirit told me that. It's like when I'd
Mhm.
be working in the field, it's like, oh, there's all these other energy centers that. So yeah, that's our evolution.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
left. I
humanity's
lost
evolution.
the whole seven chakras when I was learning about chakras. I could already feel like the doubling. Like there's like part of the system, like even the original system talks about like up to like 1721 around there.
Exactly.
And it's just like they simplified it for the newbies essentially. But I could already feel those doublings and stuff. And then I started feeling kind of the off-centered ones that are show up in human design. And I was like, whatever. Like I'm
Same
just gonna
thing.
go by what I feel instead of like what
Right.
some diagram.
The whole sphere work that I do that I was downloaded to me, which is these same systems all together. And when I finally drew it out and I saw that it looked like the Kabbalah, which actually then when I saw human design charts, it's like, oh shit, that's what I've been working on all of this time in the energy field. I could tangibly feel them and be working on the the conditioning is where we're open, and that's when we're conditioned by the rest of society because we come in with that openness and that energy's there, and I'd work with clients to clear that out. And then it's like, okay. And even back then when I was trying to find somebody that really understood, that was a Kabbalist that really understood it. And I saw the dogma, and I see the dogma in human design and Jinkies people too, and astrology people too. It's like they get locked into it and they don't see that expanded view. It's like that's what we're bringing to you all is the
Yeah.
expanded view of all of it. It's like there's no one system that has all of the answers, but it's in all systems are the same system in some level. They all work with each other. Every bit of it does. And that was one of the things Spirit said to me on they like not to study the Kabbalah because it would lock me into old energy. And that not all of the purity, the trueness, the secrets had been given to the masses, and it's the same way like with the chakras and stuff, because it's like we didn't know how to work with it. And so
Well, and there's
some of that
always kind
stuff
of
was
that
like
beginning,
spoon
and
fed
then
to
they
us.
tell you the real stuff later. And really,
Exactly.
that's any system, by
It
the way.
is.
Like any system is just to get you an understanding
It's the amount.
so that you can have a sense of the quality of the whole thing. And so whenever we are so tied to the system, then we're losing the vision of the whole thing. What is that? Like there's some like a I think it's a Buddhist saying of basically that we we think the religion is the awakening, right? Or the way to get to the awakening, when it's really just the boat, and people just stay on the boat instead of getting off when they've crossed over, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that's any belief system. Like
It
if
is.
you're just sitting there in the system, letting the system determine what spirituality is to you or what energy is to you, then you got to get off the boat sometime. Like,
That's when we go into, like, when we just conform or start being complacent with it. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what did
So,
you wanna talk about from the energies from last week? There was something you said
oh
that
yeah, because last week was crazy for me. Like, so I had this amazing heart opening expansion feeling when I was doing meditation, working with spirit, and on Monday, right? And I just like vibrating, my whole body was just like, yeah, living life, woohoo, right? And then on Tuesday, it was like dead air. It was just like, it was, I was not feeling like the vibration so much. A lot of the energy feelings when I speak are because I feel something in my body and then it, comes through. I call it like kind of channeling or translating. And like that capability was not there because I wasn't getting those sensations, right?
mhm.
So like I'm just like, I have to talk from my brain. This is hard. And it wasn't working out very well. And I had to teach a class that day, so that's the whole thing.
Well, don't sometimes when we go through those big expansions, like when we're so connected, it's that and then we go into the, the collapse. It's like the out breath, the in breath, it's like that kind of thing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that can hit hard. That's just like when, people when you go away to some big retreat or some weekend, workshop and you're so expanded and then you come home and you like crash out the bottom, because you're not in that expanded feel anymore. So we really feel it. We start really noticing when we're not in the expanded feel anymore. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also another thing, sometimes when that, because I was like that. I just felt like, and I was blaming it on, being out of my element in, element with family and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes when that happens to me and I ask spirit, when I call it being brain dead, that I just feel like not connected to anything, because that's how I've been, and it's like, then you can start to go in depression with it. It's like, okay, what's
Yep.
going on? And sometimes it's because there is so much frigging, I'm gonna call it chaos, even though I have the gate of chaos. But there's so much debris going on out there in all of the astral planes, in all of the different layers.
Mhm.
I think it's almost a safety mechanism to get disconnected and not be out there in all of it. Does that make
Mm.
sense? I've had
I
that
feel what you're
happen before.
saying.
It's like where I'll ask spirit, like, because I usually sleep all night, and it's like, and if I'm waking up in the night, they'll say, "We brought you out of the astral field because there's too much debris out there. There's too much stuff happening, and like we've got to like disconnect you from all of it
Hmm.
in order to be able, to reboot you, to download you, and to upgrade you." So sometimes it's that too. Like I have that sometimes, what I call being in the void.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It's that and a really intense, like, voided moon feeling,
Right.
But it was like
I didn't
times
look at the
a
moons last week
thousand.
because I kept thinking, okay, like in the elements, cause my natal Mars is in Mars, and with Mars in Cancer, and with Mars being in Cancer, and I had my solar Cancer return. That I've just been going through that. Like that week, I was going through, which happens every 2.5 years. And so I thought,
Mm.
oh, I should have this rush of new energy and clarity. And what's the new thing that I'm, going to jump out and start, because I am in a personal Mars natal. It's just like your solar, like everything has a return. And I was in that, and I was like, this will be interesting. Especially since I was with family during it. And instead of getting some kind of big downloads and ahas and what my big next, thing is, I have just been like nothing, nothing. It's like, what is wrong? So it sounds like a
It
lot of
was a
us are
void, of
going through
course.
that.
It was on
Yeah.
Tuesday. It was a void, of course.
Okay.
So that's interesting. But this is one of the reasons why I love talking astrology, because it's like I had this experience and it was probably just me, and then like something like that shows
Yeah,
up.
we find out Carrie was feeling it, you're feeling it, I'm feeling it. We're all living in different places. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And to trust ourselves too, like, because it just reminds us to trust that we are receiving information, like whether or not it's normal for other people or whatever is not the case. It's not as important as recognizing when you are getting signals and knowing what those signals mean to you, right? So
Right.
so even when I was leading my class, I let them know what was going on. I asked if anybody else was feeling anything similar, like this is a really good time to have community type of thing. Like if you are sensitive, it's really important to have community. Um, and a lot of people didn't recognize it, but there was one person who was like, "Oh my gosh, yes," right? Even that one person lets you feel like, okay, I'm not going crazy, right? And then it's an idea of, okay, like it's okay. This is a human experience. We're human. We're having an experience. That's what we're here for. Like it's okay that it doesn't feel like normal. It's okay if things are a little different today, right?
Right.
And that you're gonna be okay. You're gonna make it through the weirdness.
Yeah, I was just sitting there reflecting and going, how did I used to do that? Did I, show up for I'm gonna call it a 9 to 5, lack of, whatever. Like I used a bunch of time clock and go in, and it's like, I don't know, I smoked a lot of pot and drank a lot of beer. And that's what we do. It's like we do something to numb us out from
Yeah.
all of it to survive, to put one foot in front of the next, to do those things like that, to be out in it. I mean, I can't.
I just shut down. I would just
I'm, I know.
I just
It's
shut
like
down
I knew
completely.
I had to create a life for me, that I
Coffee
was the
helped.
one in charge of it. Yeah, coffee helps. That I had to create a life that I could be the one that, like yesterday when I was doing the headache thing and I was on myself, because it's like, oh my God, I've got to record these videos for this week. I've got to do this, which I've created that for myself. And then I was hearing this one part going, you can lay here as long as you want to. You don't have to do anything. Nobody's the boss of you. So I was having those things. And it's like, yeah, just keep laying back down, because I knew if I got up, I was just going to have more of the migraine, and then I needed to keep detoxing. And for me, that's
Yeah.
the easiest way to detox, is to just be out in that field. Now, I don't, sometimes, you get all kinds of crazy stuff in dreams. Now, I did have crazy dreams last night. I don't know what they were really about today. And I may have, after you said something about ancestors, it was like, did I have any relatives that come through? And then I realized today that somewhere in this weekend today, somewhere, that this is like the anniversary of my brother's death. And so when I was with my mom that week, because she was trying to already pull that in, like it's like,
Mhm.
Mom, we're on vacation. It's like, let's just like not go there yet. And I could feel that energy that she was trying to pull that in. And
Mhm.
and I thought of that yesterday. I thought, I wonder, because sometimes we feel things like that and we don't even know, that we don't remember those dates. And all of a sudden, energetically, they are like affecting us. Because I
Yeah.
thought, am I
Yeah.
feeling any of that? And I don't know that, because I know I dreamed about somebody last night, and I can't remember who it was, but it was people that had been in my life and that were, supporters, that I know I had dreams with different people that are on the other side, but I don't remember what
Mhm.
any of it was. I had the weird dream of what, it's like, why do we have this dream? And I know other people have had this dream, and it's one of those really weird dreams where you're looking for the bathroom for the commode, and every one of them you walk into is full, and it's like overflowed, and it's like you can't walk. This commode is full of crap. And it's like, why can't I find a clean one? I had that
I
dream
have had
last
that
night.
dream.
I know people have had that dream before. Now, I read somewhere that in some culture, oh, it was the it was in Korea that is actually a symbol of good fortune to come if you're dreaming about poop.
Really?
Yeah, and
That is
that
so
was when it.
interesting.
Yeah, because they used to. I just read that last week. It was talking about how there were people that came in the night that took that from the places, and then they used that to do permaculture with. And so in
Oh,
that
okay.
culture, that was before they had any kind of septic systems, if you want to call it that, and that was how civilizations used to deal with their body
You're
elimination,
right.
and that
Might as
they
well put it
actually,
to use.
yeah, they had people that come and got it, and then and that's what they did with it. They did permaculture with it and used it,
Ah.
just like chicken poop or whatever. To be sustainable, and then it was good fortune when you have one of those dreams. And so when I woke up this morning, I thought, because sometimes you wake up and like you need to. It's like it's a dream because that's what you need to go do yourself, and I didn't, and I was like, why was I dreaming that? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to some way turn that in to that some way that was good fortune, because at the time it doesn't feel like it. It's like when you're in that
Yeah. You're
dream
just
and you
like, oh my God.
and you keep
Oh
going
my
to
God.
another one, and they're like they're overflowed, and you're like, oh God, I just walked into this. Who is this anyway?
By the way, like I rarely remember my dreams.
Me too. Rarely do that.
Extremely rarely, but I know I've had that dream.
Oh,
I've
you
also
know what?
had a dream of just like walking into our Owen and just being like, oh my God, it's full, right? Like, why ain't Daryl flush, right? Like, that's
Right.
immediately you blame your husband. That's just the first step.
Oh,
And then,
it's interesting that I was detoxing and I was dreaming about other people's shit. And it's like, so maybe that was letting me know, like, whatever I was detoxing from,
and it doesn't feel like, okay, so the one I had that I remember, like it wasn't last night, it was the night before. And I had just this feeling of being overwhelmed by like this dude. And I couldn't really sense why. Like whether it was like, he was like, I don't know, what do they call it? Coming on to me, or whether it was like just him wanting to persuade me to do something. But I just felt like super overwhelmed, you know? And I was just like, get away. Like I was about to scream to like, that was my first defense mechanism as an introvert. I was like, well, I might not find a word to say, but I will, if it gets bad enough, I'll just scream and they'll go away because they'll think I'm crazy, right? Like, so that was, so then I was about to open my mouth to scream and then I recognized that I was sleeping, right?
yeah.
And so I was like, oh, wait, you're going to wake up Daryl. And so I didn't, but like again, like very rarely do I remember my dreams, but I specifically remember that much, and I knew it very clearly when I woke up. I wasn't really awake, but when I woke up, I was like, I knew exactly what happened in the dream at the time, and I was like, that is so strange, and I've had that dream before. So again, like these things come up, right? These things come up, and
Yeah,
I
they're
do tend to feel
subconscious. I
energy
mean,
like a
yeah.
day or two early, right?
Yeah, our subconscious is working all night, whether we are or not. And that's why it's like set your intentions, because it's going to clear out this stuff one way or another. I read
Yeah.
an article, and I thought of that of us both saying we don't really remember our dreams. I don't, unless it's something like really specific, and I know there's something going on. And I don't remember where I read that at last week, what that was in, but it said that people, I don't know who channeled it, and it said that if you don't remember and you're not doing all that stuff and you're not waking up like your subconscious is chasing you, that it means that you're working through your stuff on a conscious level. So you don't have to retain all of that from the subconscious in your waking hours.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I like that. I like the answer to that. I like the answer that's, you get to sleep, you get to watch it like a movie. And, because I used to say that to people. I'd say, oh, I know why I don't remember my dreams. They're so disturbing that I can't. The next day, I'm like walking around going, what the was that? What was that about? And I don't want to remember them. And then when I read that the other day, I was like, oh, I like that. I like that that I'm like working it out, smoothing it out, and then that way I don't have to consciously walk through it, the next day. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish
Yeah.
I remember. I think that was in the same article about the Korean dung people, whatever it was that they called them, and that was like an honored job to be the person that came and got that and took it to the fields. So anyway,
Interesting.
things on my
It's
wild goose
amazing. That's
chase
an
list.
honor.
Yeah,
Like
the
in
things that you get into on your Google chases,
the
it's
other
like,
poop was the other like lucky poop is birds, right? So like I don't know. I don't know. This may be a Jamaican thing. My
well,
mom
and
used
I
to
think
say
in
like if a
Egypt,
bird pooped on your car or on your or if it
yeah,
pooped on you, that if a bird
it
pooped
was
on
good
you,
luck.
so good luck. Yeah, blessing.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
in Egypt too, the scarab, it's like a thing of prosperity and good fortune and luck, and
And
that's
it
what it
rolls the
does. It climbs through that and rises through it and everything. So anyway, that's what we got for you all. A bunch of
You got plenty of poop for you, which is appropriate.
yeah,
Taurus, like deep
yeah,
earth.
with the earth, with this and what you do with it and how to move forward. So if any of you all have had those dreams, or you don't remember your dreams, maybe your subconscious is just smoothing it out for you and you don't have to. So you can put things in the comments and tell us about your crazy ass dreams.
Anything's coming up for you.
What's
Guess
coming up for
what,
you with it?
Kimberly? Eclipse is a 1 degree away from my Mars.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, it's like minus the 28th, and I think they close on the 29th
It's the
degree.
29th. It's the 29th degree. Yeah. So you're in the orb
Yeah.
of it. If you have anything that's 29 degrees Aries or in that the Mercury retrograde, I can't remember the number now. It seems like it's around 18 because my moon is 17 Taurus. And I thought, oh, that's right on top of that. Um, so if you have those degrees, you're going to feel stuff even more intense. If you have anything that's in that house in that degrees, but even if you have that degree in another house, depends on if the house can see that house, it's going to affect that house too. I don't know if that made
Yeah.
any sense. It's like you have a window to it because you're setting at the same level and there's like windows. Some of them, if it's beside it and you can't see it, then it's not going to affect you. But if you have like a square to it or opposition, then you're going to feel it in those houses. It's going to affect those houses too, besides just the ones that
Yeah.
you
So yeah, that's why it's
said.
good to know
Angles.
the degree, because if you have any degree in any house, it's affecting you in some way, shape, or
Right. So
form.
there's like an orb to those degrees. So if you have anything that it's usually some people do it closer, but a 5 degree orb on either side of that, you're going to feel it for sure. Some people say 3 degrees, some people say 5, and I've seen people go out to as much as 10 on it. But the tighter the degree, the tighter that it is to that. Like what she said, hers was 28, and I've got the 17.
20.
It's right there on it, so you're in the orb of it.
Well,
You're in the
actually,
influence.
I read it wrong. I'm actually 28 degrees Taurus, and it's 28 degrees Aries. I mean, 29 degrees Aries is the eclipse.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but you're still
So
gonna
I did
really
read it
feel
wrong,
it.
but it's you got to
You're
have that
really gonna, but you're gonna
semi-sextile.
feel it because of that with the Taurus and those being beside each other, and the fact that it's moving straight into Taurus. It's like that. Still, that house will be probably more impacted for you than the house where the eclipse is itself. Does that make sense? It's like that's where your
Yeah,
wind is going to be. So that's
absolutely.
when,
Yeah.
like,
And that's all my degrees too. Like I have a lot of late 20s.
I do
Um,
too.
like so I have like a 23-degree sun and moon in Cancer.
Yeah,
23. Am I right? Yes. 23 degrees sun. Moon is 17 degrees, sorry. But yeah, like but still
my moon's 17.
that's within 5 degrees. I mean, no, that's 6 degrees. So I might be okay there, but it's still a lot of energy. So big energy sun, big energy eclipse, like it's probably going to overlap a little bit. Um, and then my ascendant's 23 degrees. Yeah.
Go back and think, what did happen in my life in
And my Jupiter's 23
2000?
degrees.
I think, honestly, 2005, 6. Um, that was my partner, which was a Taurus. That was probably the time he was he was sick and died. I'm trying to think what year did the way I remember what year Jay died is that he died the summer before Obama was elected. That's how I remember dates, you all. I do not hold on to dates. And I
Me
had like
either.
3 friends that died from that time period in that 6 months. And one of them was my
Wow.
friend that was actually at the inauguration, and she blew a aorta laughing. So what a way to go. And that's how I always remember it, that it was like
Yeah.
6 months between their crossing and that Kay left at the inauguration. And so it's like that's how I keep up with it. So was that 2008? When did he go in? Anyway, so I'm looking back thinking, okay, what happened in my life during 2005, 2006? And it was like I was going through all
This
that
makes
with
sense,
Jay
right?
and my partner, and here he was a Taurus too, and then he left.
Yeah,
So
that's
he probably
right.
left during that eclipse. If I went back and looked at those charts, that was probably because sometimes people do, when it's on you like that, it's like one of those windows that it's like you
It's
go,
one of those
okay,
portals where people are just like,
mhm,
"Bloop,
yeah,
peace
to
out."
go into your next adventure. Not that
Yeah.
we're not trying to scare anybody with that, but I'm just like, okay, what happened to me during that time period? It was like big shifts in my life. That was a big shift. So
Yeah,
yeah.
for me, that was 2 years. 2006 is when they got married. 2000, 2008, I think we were moving. Oh, but that was right around that time. That's right around that time when there's like some problems with the market. Hey, what's your name? Blessed be. That's one of my YouTube people's. Yeah. So yeah, Chiron and Taurus. Oh, yeah, yeah. No, it's been a thing with Chiron and Taurus this last few years because it really has been like kind of Uranus and like
Yeah, with
a
Uranus
lot of
there.
other stuff has just been like all over
Well,
Taurus.
and then we've had the North Node. It's like it's been there. So all that energy that Cryon is that opportunity to heal. I'm not calling Cryon the wounded healer anymore. Cryon is the healer. It's like it brings the energy, an opportunity to the healing for you. That we don't have to carry whatever those condition wounds are anymore. I'm trying to let us look to see what I wrote. If there's anything we didn't talk about. I think we've talked about everything.
Yeah. Yeah, the only thing we didn't really talk about is late week. It'll shift into the 27 gene keys, which is the selfishness, altruism, selflessness. And honestly, that one is tough to talk about for me because there's like one of those things where it is one of those things of like the perspective of whether or not it's selfish. It depends on what your perspective is at the time and how are you seeing serving others.
Mhm.
um and so it's one of those things that it really is a personal journey. That's why it's in Aries, right? Like it's in Aries
Right,
because
right. And that's
it's
what Aries is, the personal journey and personal beginnings and, all of that energy of that. Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah.
Aries gate. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's like one of those deep Aries energies where it's really that conversation with yourself. It's like if you are in selfishness, it's typically out of fear. It's typically out of that need to self-protect because nobody else is protecting you. It's that feeling of like I'm being unsupported. And so you need to be selfish in order to survive, in other words. Like and so yeah, and the turnaround there, like when you're going into the gift for altruism, is really about the fact that in order for us to succeed, we need others, and when we are in that desire to serve others and help others is most when we are going to feel that in return. And then you're creating those connections as well. I have like a mirrored energy in a different sign. And it's that feeling of like, well, keep getting constricted because I think that I'm under attack, or I think that I don't have enough, or scarcity feeling. And then like, okay, well, how am I going to connect to others so I feel supported, even if I personally don't have that thing, that people that I care about may be able to support me, or like just to carry me through until I do, right?
Mhm.
And it's really hard for me. Like, it's really hard for me to trust that somebody will show up for me on that level.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing here. It's like it's really hard to trust that if you give first, that blessing will be returned, so to speak. Yeah,
Yeah, so that energies are gonna be coming up that you'll if that may not be activated in your chart normally, that you may be feeling those during this time period. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, so just be gentle with it. Whenever that feeling of like not being supported for me, like immediately I think of kind of my dominant gifts, which is grace. Like just being gracious with yourself, being really gentle, just understanding that you're human and there's other humans. Like
Right,
the more you can just
right.
like be gentle with yourself, and that you're normal, that there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you're having this experience. And then what is the experience? And then for me, it's easy to shift from there to say, like, what is the experience I want to have? And what is stopping me? Like, or what makes me think that I can't have it? Right. And so yeah, so that one is tough energy. And how you'll recognize it is basically Aries, the
Yeah,
shadow of
it's
Aries,
that
right? Is that if
perfect.
you're like acting out in anger and you're just like,
Right, when
you
the
know,
emotions are coming up, then that's what is it? Don't suppress them again, but it's like, what is that energy about? And then connect to it and utilize the energies, your breath, whatever it is, that's the easy one. Sound it out, scream it out, let the energies
yeah,
go. Because that pin up energy is going to come up during this to release so that you can have new beginnings and that you don't carry any of that distorted um, energy that you were conditioned to. So, it's
yeah.
an opportunity
And if
for
you
all of us
try to
to
get rid
release.
of it and like ignore, like try to pretend like it doesn't happen, which is what we tend to do. Like a lot of
Right, suppressing it.
women
Yeah.
don't honor their anger, right? Um, and it's okay to be angry, right? Uh, And then the sooner you recognize it, that you just say, "Oh, I am angry," then you can start to figure out, why am I angry? And usually most anger, there's fear right behind it. What am I afraid will happen? Right?
Hmm.
Um, why do I feel like I've been wronged in a certain way? Right? Like those are the things that are hidden behind the the feelings of anger. And that's, a lot of people, I don't know. They make anger wrong, but they also don't, but anger only happens when you're not honoring your feelings.
Yeah, it can be suppressed anger can be depression. So that's one of the things that when you do feel that, that's where righteous anger creates action. It has a
Yeah.
purpose, like the energy comes up, and because of it, instead of going into rage or, if you utilize the energy, that's when you utilize it and you utilize that Mars and the Aries energy to create the action of how can I change this? That's when we
Yeah,
use it. We use the energy in that way. What can I do about this to change this in the world? And you have to start with you.
absolutely.
That's where it starts at, is you first. And what's
Yeah,
that
I used to
energy
do that
about?
all the time. I used to suppress the anger because it wasn't okay for me to be angry. So, like, as an African American woman, you don't walk around angry. It's just like not done in certain circles, right? Um, And so like repressing that would keep me in this feeling of like helplessness, hopelessness, depression, right? And so that's something that we just want to be able to recognize within ourselves, like, well, if like you said, is that it is there's kind of like a progression there. So if you're in depression, hopelessness, that is it's actually better to be angry, right? It's actually better to be angry
Right,
because
yeah, and
that
to
means
use
that
the energy, like to use the
yeah,
energy, like to that's when you can release the energy, like to use it in however way that you release it. Okay,
yeah,
people.
embrace it. Yeah. And
So
then
if
it'll just
anything's
move
coming up for
on.
you, then you can put it here. You can express the energy in whatever way to release it. You have tips yourself that you use that work for you. And you're going to have probably some that energy of that prioritize you, that you, and if any frustration or anger comes up, it could be that because you're not prioritizing you, because the energy of the new beginnings and that 27 guy is the energy to prioritize you. So if you're suppressing that, you're going to feel that in you. You're going to feel that energy of that. And
And what's new about that? Like
mhm,
what wants to come through in the new way of addressing that and how you are moving forward, right?
mhm.
Like, because I feel like that shift has started. Ooh, I can't remember, but like it was like I think it was a full moon.
The full moon
Was
was a
that
Libra full moon, so it was that's the opposite
the one
polarity.
before that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
the
one
one
that we
before
had.
that.
And this is the second new moon in Aries that we've had this month. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, when we have two full moons, I call it a blue moon. And there's some kind of name that they've come up now with the two new moons, and I don't remember what it is. But this is the second opportunity of beginnings that we've had in this same cycle of this.
And
Yeah.
it's really it's really exacerbating the energy because we were in Mars retrograde before that. It was farther back, end of last year. And these are just like all the energies of like, what does it look like for you to move, to do actions? What does it look like for you to initiate something that you're creating and the moving into what wants to be done, what wants to be created? Like, and how does that look different than the way you did it before? And how are you honoring that? And how are you honoring yourself, right? How are you honoring
Mhm.
yourself in the way you do that? Yeah.
Yeah. And the Taurus is, it is finances and stuff like that, and where it's at in the charts and in collective, and especially here in the United States and the chart of United States and what's going on there. It's like any structures that we see collapse during this time period and in the next 6 months, it's because it was time. And then when people get all upset about things like that, I just go, oh, it's finally happening. We came here to do this. We're working on it. And that's what we've been doing all this time. So we may see some stuff like that happening in the financial systems during this time period. So just, be aware of that. And I don't know that I would be running around making any big purchases during the Mercury in retrograde in Taurus. It's like pay attention to your funds, where your funds are going, where your energy links with money, like that's energy. Like what are you leaking out that's not actually supporting you? What are you supporting that's not supporting you?
Mm,
That
such
energy.
a good question.
Yeah, that was just channeled. It was like, that's like, okay, channel question of the day. So that's where we'll
That
leave
was
you
really
with that
good.
energy of that, because if it happens and you're feeling the resistance, it's the aha, you know, that is letting you know where you're spending your own energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So that's going to be coming up of what, if you feel any resentment towards anything like that, it's because you're not prioritizing yourself. Any of that
yeah,
anger or resentment is that's what the inner reflection is going to be, of that. When we're leaking out our energy in that way. Yeah, there's something I was trying to see, because toward that, like that's the luxury, it's finances, it can be materialist, it can be all of that, but then it's also practical and supportive and nurturing energy too.
yeah.
Yeah. So It's just the parts showing, hey, you're not nurturing yourself. You're not prioritizing yourself. How can you do it in a balanced, healthy way that you're supported with divine, by the
Right.
divine
And that you're,
you are?
and I often put value there,
Right.
like how are you
Yeah.
valuing yourself?
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
so
That's it. That's the
that's the
energies that,
mirror of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, have a blessed week and all of the energies. And I'm gonna put some stuff on up on the more stuff on the YouTube channel with all of this and survival tips with it. I'm gonna try to start doing that more on my IG channel, like little survival things, and then like to do it in the reels of, okay, how do you get what are you feeling today and how do you get through the day? Like tips for the day
Yeah.
kind of energy.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah, survival tips for the current transits.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
that's what
sounds
come up
awesome.
today when I was like making a title for us. And it was like
Hmm.
energy, when I was doing energy transits, and then I heard survival tips. And I thought, oh, that might be what our new thing is, survival tips for energy transits.
Yes,
How to
man.
be sustainable in these times. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, how do you prepare? Like, how are you getting? Like, it's important because the more you have a plan of preparedness, when you start recognizing the patterns of the energy and you're preparing for them, then they're not so brutal, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, I would love like a survival preparedness kit for the transits. That would be fab. All
Yeah.
right, lovely, lovely people.
Okay. Have a great, blessed week and utilize those energies to your highest benefit for what you incarnated here on this planet for. And take that energy and breathe through it. Breathe,
Yes,
breathe,
breathe,
breathe.
breathe it through, breathe
Breathe,
it in,
dance it, release it. Yeah.
release it to the earth, breathe it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Ta-ta, friends.
Bye bye for now. Let's end this and have a great week.
Yeah.